Jack Doherty was once a name people associated with viral energy, pranks, and larger-than-life YouTube stunts. But now, his name is ringing through the corners of the internet for entirely different reasons. Drama, controversy, and a trail of questionable decisions have redefined his image. This story isn't about takedown or mockery, it's about understanding the rise, unraveling, and the reality of a creator caught in his own echo chamber. One of the most viral moments recently wasn't even from his main content, it came from a breakup. Jack had been dating McKinley, a creator known for her own presence online, and their relationship had turned public in all the wrong ways. Their split, punctuated by live streams and online drama, revealed more than just heartbreak. It exposed Jack's growing desperation to hold on to attention. He was emotional. "She was the only person I really saw," Jack said in a live stream, struggling to articulate the chaos he had experienced over the last 2 years. That moment, raw and vulnerable, wasn't received with sympathy. It was mocked, not just because of his words, but because of the years of behavior that preceded it. Jack's reflection on the relationship came with undertones of distrust. "Every girl after this, you're gonna have to be more careful," he said, hinting that clout chasing and fame hunting might have played a role in his split. It was a cynical, if not relatable, sentiment, but coming from Jack, it sounded hollow. Commentators were quick to point out the irony. After all, Jack himself had built a career on content that often pushed the edge of what many considered ethical or tasteful. The idea that someone else might be using him for clout felt like a mirror turning back on his own brand. Meanwhile, critics like Adam McIntyre and other commentary creators didn't hold back. They dissected Jack's comments with surgical precision.
I love this debate. They're basically going to debate fight or Jack selling out his girl. Close second. I'm pretty sure if you offered him a couple million, he'd do that.
McKinley had all the hallmarks of a transactional partnership, one fueled by content, optics, and constant performance. This wasn't just internet beef. It was a broader conversation about authenticity, parasocial relationships, and the toll of always living online. For Jack, the internet wasn't just a job, it had become his whole world. And as that world started to crumble, everyone was watching. Once upon a time, Jack could rely on sheer spectacle to carry him. Whether it was outrageous stunts or boundary-pushing pranks, his viewers clicked because they knew something wild was going to happen. But now, those same tactics aren't seen as daring, they're viewed as desperate. And the viewers? They've turned into critics. Popular commentary creators, from Pegasus to Moisir1 Tikal, have addressed Jack's behavior. Some, like Charlie, aka Moisir1 Tikal, deliver their criticism with dry wit. Others are more blunt, using Jack as an example of what happens when online fame clouds better judgment. In one revealing clip, Jack admitted he watches the so-called hate documentaries about himself. Not only does he watch them, he says he enjoys them. It was a strange admission, one that made many wonder whether Jack truly understood the critiques being made about him. But instead of denying or engaging thoughtfully, Jack responded with vague deflections. "Everything they say is wrong," he said in a podcast. When pressed to name even one thing that was inaccurate, he dodged the question. It wasn't a defense, it was evasion. Part of the reason Jack has remained in the spotlight is because he blends the real and the performative so seamlessly that it's hard to tell where one ends and the other begins. That's both a strength and a liability. In one particularly controversial moment, Jack was filmed yelling during a police encounter involving McKinley. The footage wasn't flattering. What could have been a private disagreement turned into viral content. Instead of resolving things quietly, Jack filmed and posted, effectively broadcasting their conflict to his millions of followers. Critics raised a question. When you film everything, are you even living your real life anymore? Or are you just playing a character for clicks? This moment wasn't just a footnote. It added to a growing perception that Jack's content wasn't just reckless, it was inconsiderate. He wasn't just making edgy content, he was hurting people in the process. And even more troubling, he seemed unaware, or perhaps indifferent, to the emotional fallout. Now, as his relationship with McKinley continues to be dissected online, and with her appearing on other streamers' channels, Jack's digital shadow only grows longer. But attention doesn't always equal admiration. McKinley, no longer tethered to Jack's chaotic orbit, began appearing on live streams and podcasts. But unlike Jack, her tone was more composed. She didn't attack him outright. She let her silence and calm posture speak volumes. Viewers noticed. Suddenly, the ex-girlfriend wasn't just a supporting character in Jack's story, she was becoming a personality in her own right. She spoke about self-respect, boundaries, and how damaging it can be to be constantly wrapped up in content creation as a relationship. Clips of her went viral, not because she was dramatic, but because she was sincere. Sometimes you don't realize how much noise you're living in until you step away, she said in one interview. It was a quiet rebuke to Jack's lifestyle, but a powerful one. The internet, often driven by noise and conflict, found her stillness refreshing. People started asking, was McKinley the real breakout here? Was she the one who actually grew from the experience? Jack, sensing the shifting tides, attempted to reclaim the narrative. He launched a series of apology-adjacent live streams, peppered with introspection, jokes, and vague promises of growth. But viewers had seen this before. His redemption arc didn't feel like a real pivot. It felt like another Play A performance aimed at preserving audience loyalty. "I'm done with the drama," he said in one stream, only to post a clip the next day mocking his critics. The cycle repeated: apology, controversy, denial, deflection. And while his core fanbase remained loyal, others began dropping off, tired of the loop. Worse, some of Jack's newer content hinted at a darker edge, more hostility, more bitterness. Instead of reflecting on his past choices, he seemed more concerned with blaming others for the backlash.
But
if this was a
I try to be
redemption
nicer,
tour,
you know, do
it
better
wasn't
things with
selling
money,
many
like
tickets.
give back and stuff.
While Jack's online persona
And
was unraveling behind the scenes, the machinery of brand deals, sponsored posts, and merchandise was still running. Or at least trying to. Jack had long marketed himself as an entrepreneur, someone who wasn't just a YouTuber, but a businessman. He flaunted brand collabs, launched products, and occasionally bragged about his earnings. But cracks in that image began to show. Some business partners distanced themselves quietly. Others voiced concern over Jack's increasingly erratic behavior. Influencer culture is driven by optics, and Jack's were no longer favorable. A brand wants reach, but not risk. At the same time, Jack's spending habits, flashing luxury cars, expensive properties, and impulsive purchases began to look less like flexing and more like overcompensation. Was he maintaining a brand or masking instability? Maintaining an online empire isn't cheap. And for Jack, who built his platform on spectacle, the cost was more than just financial. Live streaming became a lifeline not just for income, but for relevance. But that constant need for attention, for validation, came with a cost. He needed each stream to outdo the last, each prank to be riskier, each moment to be more outrageous. And it wore him down. Even fans noticed the change not just in content, but in Jack himself. There was a tiredness, a sharpness in tone, a feeling that the fun was fading and frustration was taking its place. The financial pressure was real. Behind the glitz was a creator constantly having to perform not for art, but to survive in the algorithm's grip. And when that performance slipped, the reality was often jarring. As Chapter 9 approaches, we dive deeper into the blurred identity of Jack Doherty, the man, the brand, and the unraveling line between them. And that is the story so far. Jack Doherty's rise was loud, chaotic, and impossible to ignore. But his fall, that's been even louder. Not because of haters or some grand cancellation, but because of the choices he made in front of all of us. This wasn't just a story about one influencer, it's a mirror held up to internet fame itself. The pressure to perform, the obsession with clout, the slow erosion of the person behind the persona. So what comes next for Jack Doherty? That's the question. Will he rebuild, rebrand, or just double down? Time will tell. But one thing's certain, everyone will be watching. If you've made it this far, you're not just a viewer. You're part of a deeper conversation about where this culture is heading. So drop a comment below. Do you think Jack can come back from this? Or has the internet moved on for good? Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to Mr. Stream, and turn on notifications because we're not done digging. We've got more stories, more chaos, and more truth on the way. This is Mr. Stream, and we stream the stories they try to hide.